All right, so welcome everyone. It's good to see you. Now, this week's topic is awareness and mindfulness. Last time we've been covering mindfulness. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about awareness. So basically there are three states that are very often confused or misunderstood, which is one is mindfulness, one is consciousness, one is awareness. And so it helps sometimes to kind of define them, to set them apart a little bit so that you know what I'm talking about when I use those words. So first of all, mindfulness, we had that last week. I'd say mindfulness is defined as knowing what's happening while it's happening, or simply the ability to recollect, keep something in mind. The opposite of mindfulness is forgetfulness. It means if you try to keep your breath in mind and you forget that you're breathing, but you get lost in a train of thought, you lost your mindfulness, right? So that's forgetfulness. And the second one is then consciousness. Consciousness here, the way I usually use it is as that quality which connects with a sense organ and a sense experience, you can say. We have these 6 sense experiences and consist of 3 things coming together each. So for example, for hearing to take place, you need to have an ear, a sense organ, right? It has to be functioning, healthy sense organ. Then there has to be a sound too. Not just an ear, but there has to be sound that the ear can kind of catch. And then there has to be consciousness, a specific consciousness of that sound. There is a consciousness which is just specifically related to the ears. It picks up what the ear has caught. Okay, so the ear catches sound and consciousness becomes aware of that sound. So we call that ear consciousness, if you translate it. So if the ear organ, the sense organ, you have the sense experience, like sound or smell or taste, and you have a consciousness that makes the whole experience experienceable. Okay. If it wasn't for consciousness, you'd all be corpses. As you have an ear, a corpse has an ear, but it doesn't hear. Even if you clap, corpse doesn't hear it. So there is a sound, there is an ear, and probably the eardrum would also vibrate, but there is no hearing because consciousness is not there. Okay, that type of consciousness is conditioned. Okay, it is not unconditioned. That type of consciousness responds to sense activity, and it is conditioned by, colored by sense activities. I always say 6 senses because we also include the mind as one of the senses. Here meaning mind activity, the intellect, such as thoughts, perceptions, viewpoints, belief systems. Yes, so emotions. All that is mental stuff. And for mental stuff to be experienced, we need to have consciousness of mental stuff, which is conditioned by mental stuff. So that type of consciousness is just a simple conditioned consciousness. Just being aware of what goes on in the realm of body and mind. Awareness, on the other hand, is deeper. And the way I use the word, it points to the deepest quality of the mind. How is awareness defined? Awareness defined as that what is clear and knowing. Clear here means that it's like space. Okay. Space as such is not obstructive. It's not material. It isn't solid. If you think about space, just this empty, dead space. Like that. So one is that the nature of awareness is like that. It is like space. It is not a thing, a solid thing, that you can you open someone's body and there it is, there is awareness, and you can kind of take it out of the body because it's that material thing. It's not. It's empty, open, like space. But it is not entirely like space, because it has a function, and that function is to know. Okay, this is the function of bare cognition. That is awareness. Just cognizing something, just knowing something. Not conceptually knowing something, not like the way we use, oh, now I know what that means. Not that kind of knowing, but just bare knowing. Okay? So that would be awareness. Now, discovering or recognizing the nature of mind takes quite a bit of sustained and good, proper practice. Many people, they can get glimpses, you can get glimpses of awareness. We go to that later. But to sustain them, to have a sustained experience, a sustained recognition of awareness without it clouding over fast again, that is the practice. That's why we have to train ourselves. It's not enough to just recognize awareness once. You have to recognize it successively, again and again and again, so that you learn to stay in it. Now you might wonder why. What's the point? Why recognizing awareness? Well, it is leading to peace. If you recognize awareness, you can also say if you truly understand yourself, that's the end of problems. This is the end of suffering. The end of drama, the end of fabricated head movies that tell you that you're such and such a person that hopefully later becomes somehow unproblematic at some point. That stops. And with that comes peace. Knowing yourself is the highest peace. There's nothing that can surpass self-knowledge. True self-knowledge, proper self-knowledge. Not the type of self-knowledge that you might get sometimes, like, oh, now I know what kind of person I am. Maybe after many years of practice, suddenly you discover some hidden fear that you've never seen before. Ah, now I know who I am. I'm a fearful person. That's not true. You've just discovered another thing. You're looking at that thing. But you're still not aware of the one looking at that thing. So when you want to discover or recognize awareness, we need to do introspection. We need to have a look within. We need to have a look at the looker. And that's pretty tricky. So in order to recognize awareness, you need to literally become aware of awareness. How to do that? How actually practically do we do that? How do we recognize awareness? Pretty simple. Right now, you probably have thoughts. Now you look at your mind and let it think. Let it produce sentences, words, whatever it wants to. Just let it think a little bit. See what it comes up with. It probably produces some random words, right? Maybe it describes, maybe it just simply labels what you feel. Now, your mind is talking, right? It probably talks a lot anyways. What most minds do, they're pretty good at that. Well, most people never really wonder, like, well, the mind is talking non-stop, but who is listening to it? Who is buying into all that stuff that it says? Who believes it? It's like sometimes you find these articles that are posted on Facebook, like amazing news, MSG isn't toxic, or Now science has found that, whatever, fill in the blanks. And then you read this impressive article and you go, wow, that's amazing. And then you post it and share it with your friends only to discover a bit later there was a hoax. Hoax? Hoax? How do you say it? Pronounce it? Hoax? Hoax? Thanks. Fake news. Fake news. Exactly. So you discover it's been fake news, yes. So you might delete it. Right. And so that's the same thing with the mind. It constantly gives you fake news. But it's kind of the only news source that we really trust because it's so close. It constantly gives you false information. It tells you, for example, who you are. It gives you this whole self-image package. Is that really true? Or is it just a bunch of thoughts and a bunch of beliefs, a bunch of feelings coming together, all nicely connected, and then you call that something? Because you have learned to call that something, and then you think, oh, that's who I am. I'm a person like this. I'm so confused, I don't know what's wrong with me. Hopefully I'll be unconfused and clear very soon. And then the story goes on, and usually goes on non-stop. The mind constantly looking for a way how to become unproblematic somehow. Hopefully that will happen soon, because I'm such a mess. And so it continues with these stories, doesn't it? Day in, day out. And we're all busy sustaining this self-image, trying to keep this kind of self-image together of ourselves, who we think we are. And that's literally just that. It's just thoughts, who we think we are. It's not necessarily who you really are, unless you're really identified with what you think. So peace is looking through the lies of your mind so thoroughly that you can't be deceived anymore. The mind can talk whatever it wants to say. It just doesn't arrive anymore. It's like if you have that person around you and they come to you and tell you a lie. A few days later you find out, oh, they have been lying. It wasn't true what they said. Then when they come the next time and tell you another story, how do you approach them? There's a bit of a mistrust in there, right? Your head goes to the side and you're like, really? Is that really true? Did that really happen? And it turns out it was just another lie. When that same person comes another time to you, you've made your mind up. You won't believe a word they say, even if they speak the truth. Right? You can't believe it, you can't trust it anymore. The same will happen with looking through your mental activities. You look at what the mind produces, what it says about you. What does your mind say about yourself? What kind of person are you? Are you enlightened? Are you happy? Are you unhappy? What kind of static image does your mind assign to yourself? Are you trustworthy? Are you honest? Are you dishonest? Should you be ashamed of yourself? Have you done many things wrong in your life? Have you made many mistakes? Have you made people unhappy? What will happen to you also? That's a very popular one as well. What is it that will happen to you? Tell me all about it. What will happen to you? Will life get better? Will it get worse? All these stories, they create this kind of very stable, fixed image of things or of ourselves. Have you noticed? A very like a solid thing. It's almost like My life will definitely be like that, or it will definitely go downhill, or I am definitely a person like that. All that arises because we don't really look at ourselves deeply. So what would happen if you looked at yourself deeply? Right now, right here, what would you find to be true? What is it that is really true right now? What's real right now? Anyone? What's the realest thing you can say? What's the truest truth you can say?
I'm having an experience.
I'm having an experience. It's pretty complicated there. Anything more simple? Narrow it down even more. Make it even more simple. Simplify. I'm having an experience. Simplify it. Experiencing. This is pretty simple. It is this.
There is only now.
There is only now. Yes.
There is breath.
There is breath. Yes.
What does the breath do?
What does the breath do? Yes. That invites more reflection. You see, you can come up with all kinds of thoughts, right? But the most simple statement you could possibly make is, like Chris, it was just one word, right? You just mentioned experiencing. So there is no experiencer and nothing that is experienced. There's just experiencing. It's pretty simple. Just one word. Or you could also say, I am, without adding anything behind it. And I invite playing with these kind of things, right? There's some people that say, that's a very un-Buddhist thing to say, I am. But it points to a very profound experience in the present moment, here and now. Can you feel that? I am. And then don't add any stuff behind it, please. Just get into that feeling of I am. And whatever the mind wants to add after that, you just let it drop. So now you're in a space that is pretty close to a truth. It's a very honest place to be. I am. I exist. Now all the other stuff, whatever you might add, that's fiction. Based on temporary appearances. Like the body. I'm a man, I'm a woman. We're still simple here. I'm a good man. I'm a good woman. I'm a man that has failed. I'm a man that has failed and hopes not to fail again tomorrow. It's increasingly more complicated. And as it gets more complicated, as the creation of your own mind gets more complicated, if you start buying into it, it feels more and more heavy. The more you add on, the heavier it becomes. This points to two things. One, it points to your basic being as completely empty and free. Two, it points to the fact that you create yourself and your life every moment again and again and again and again. We are busy recreating ourselves. And what do we use? We use the material of the past. We use what we are habituated to recreate our sense of self. And to kind of keep it up, to keep that sense of self alive. That's the activity of the mind. And it doesn't matter here yet if that sense of self feels bad or feels good. That doesn't play a role. It's familiar. That's what matters. You know it because it happened before. So you are able to recognize it. It's not something out of the ordinary. It's not something entirely new, so you can relate to this mental projection, to this mental creation of yourself and life and what it all means and what's going to happen to you and all that. And then you come back into that simplicity of I am. And from that, again, watch how the mind creates again. For example, it likes to start with but. So you rest for a little while in that I am, and it's nice and peaceful. There's no problem there. You're just simply here. It's not a problem at all. And then the mind comes, yeah, but will I be able to do this for the rest of my life? Or as something else. Or, that's nice to be peaceful and happy, but I won't be able to do that in the office. Or, I still have to pay taxes. Or whatever it is that your mind happens to come up with. You will find that it's quite easy to be peaceful. Doesn't take much. But it's hard because the mind kind of doesn't know what that means to be peaceful. It can't handle that. It handles chaos and mess. And it handles the problematic me. It wants to reappear as that problematic me because it's what it knows. It's familiar, as I said again. So it immediately invades the space of awareness again with, yeah, but, and actually I'm problematic and my life is a big mess and maybe one day it'll all be solved somehow. That's familiar. Now I'm back to being unpeaceful and agitated again. As absurd as that is, but we're more afraid of the light than we are afraid of our own darkness, as that saying goes, isn't it? The real tragedy is that we are afraid of the light. And you'll find that the further you go on the path, the more peace you experience, the more resistance comes up on the other end. Almost like as if there's something inside that doesn't let you relax. And it comes up with all these kind of reasons why you shouldn't relax or why you don't deserve to relax. You haven't done anything. And here you're sitting around just relaxing. You haven't done anything. You're not productive. Nothing productive comes out of yourself sitting around here being happy. How's that going to change the world? The mind comes up with all kinds of things again and again, and they're very heavy and very believable. They will get you. The mind is the best kind of advertiser you can find. It knows all the right slogans to get you. But it can sell you anything. It doesn't take much. And so it's really this kind of learning. What I find in my own experience is this learning to allow myself to be at peace for most of the day. I don't have to run around 24 hours as a running, walking problem. Is that why you were born? So that you're, for most of your waking hours, are just stressed, hoping to become unstressed at some point. Is that the purpose of life? To just be alive so that we somehow become unproblematic at some point. Right? That's not the point of living. That's not why this vast universe has given birth to your body. So that we just have a life of toil and suffering and hardship. And then maybe at the end of it we're rewarded with heaven. Maybe not. It's still open. Even during our last breath, we still hope to get somewhere else. And that is due to a lack of awareness. We're not awake. We're still deeply involved in this matrix in our head. Fantastic movie, by the way, The Matrix. You can translate that directly to the way our mind is building this entire world that we fall for. And we do that collectively on this planet to such a degree where we actually kill and fight with each other for nothing, for just creations of thought. I'm a German, you're Thai. It's mind-made. A baby isn't born saying, I'm German. Doesn't know what that means. You can tell a baby, you're German. If you tell that often enough, it's saved on the hard disk. And then the baby starts to repeat that, I'm a German, I'm a German, I'm a German. Okay. Now we have a convention. We agree that we're both Germans. This is mom, this is dad. I'm not saying that these things aren't real. They are there, they exist. But there's a whole lot of fiction going along with it inside of our own heads. What about reality? Where can we find it? How is it accessible? It's right here and right now. What do you truly experience right now? What's real? Is there a feeling? Do you experience the sensations? You do, right? Now just notice those sensations as they play. Feeling. Is it natural to feel? Is that normal? Are some of the feelings nice, others not? Is that the way it's supposed to be? Will that ever change? Do these feelings that you are experiencing, do they have any name? And look at your feelings beyond calling them anything, just feeling. Do you notice that they move continuously? Up and down, expanding, contracting, hot, cold. Again, make things simple when you are contemplating on these points. You want to make it as simple as possible. Not I'm experiencing good feelings or bad feelings, but just feelings. Or energy. Or aliveness in the body. And then you just feel. Just experiencing aliveness. Not calling it anything like, depression or sadness or happiness. Or just energy moving in the body, isn't it? And then you can let it move. You're not messing around with it. You stop mobbing your own feelings, telling them what they should be and how they should move. You're letting them free. You're freeing your feelings. And your feelings will be really happy if you do that. Suddenly they're free. There's no more oppressing going on. Now you can do the same with your thoughts. Do you have thoughts? Are they okay? Are they allowed to be there? Or are you mobbing your thoughts? So it's not that we try to be liberated from all problems. It's more like you need to liberate your thoughts. You need to liberate your feelings. You need to liberate your experiences. After that, what is left is awareness. When you recognize that everything that appears comes and goes, you gradually start to recognize more and more that these things that come and go is not what I am. They're things that come and go, feelings, thoughts, etc., etc. So you discover yourself on a deeper level. So that is how you go deeper into the practice of awareness. And trying to be aware doesn't work also. I'm trying to be aware, that's not it. It's a popular one also. I'm trying to be aware, but somehow it doesn't really work. You can't. Awareness is not something that tries. What's there to be tried right now, in this moment? A nice question to ask here, to just play with that a little bit. Are you a trying? Are you something that requires trying? Does existence require trying? Matthew, can you please try for the next minute to be Matthew? To just do your best. All of you just try to be yourself. Is that a trying? Is that something that's hard? Trying to be yourself? What would you do? I'm not kidding you. I have many people actually when I do this exercise, and people just look at me, and then I say, okay, for 1 minute now, the task is try to be yourself. And then they do this. Okay. They get into this posture, and then they close their eyes and all that. This is how tricky the mind is. It immediately comes up with a story of what it means to be you. Like almost as if you haven't been you, to the point where I said it. Like, now you need to be yourself. And suddenly I was like, okay, now I need to be myself. And so you throw a pose. Like, to that point where I said it, you haven't been you. How can you not be you? The same is with awareness. How can you not be aware? It's at the nature of the mind. It's always aware. It's just we don't notice it. We don't recognize it. We don't see it. And this is what you are essentially. And when you discover that more and more, all that's false, all that's an illusion falls away gradually. And that's extremely liberating. Unbelievably joyful. It's such a freedom when you discover that all that you thought you were, or thought you have to be, or thought that life is, it's not true. So there's a dropping away of being burdened. And you discover, wow, I've been burdening myself for all that time. And that's, of course, just a tiny glimpse. Then you learn to rest there. You stop burdening yourself. And by that, you stop burdening the world. That's the greatest service, the greatest gift that you can give to anyone. It is your absolute undivided awareness. Not like a little messy me that tries to somehow become better or worse or whatever. All these illusions. So again, to just summarize that, how to do this in a practical way. Now, when you leave the room, when you go out, you go back to your car, how to do... I always want you to integrate that into your life right away. Whatever you hear here, it's not some intellectual stuff that you need to accumulate and then somehow put in your bookshelf and kind of use it later, maybe. But as you move out of the room, how can you practice? When you have a feeling, notice that there is something that's aware of feeling. When you have a thought, notice that there is something that's aware of thought. And all that is based on just being fully present. So you need to train your mind to actually be here, to slow down. When you walk, know that you walk. When you sit, know that you sit. When you breathe, know that you breathe. When you eat, know that you eat. When thoughts run through your head, know that. When emotions come up, know that. See it. That's the training in the beginning. And you can do that as much as you want. You can't do it enough. Look. Everything in life invites you to look. So look. So that's all that I can say about this.